Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. We are on lesson 16 of our Ilmul Akhlaq, or lessons of morality. And we're going to talk about a vice which is called stinginess. The next vice that we have is called bukhl. This is what we can call in English as stinginess. So the the bakhil person, the bakhil person, this is a person who doesn't want to spend. This person, he doesn't want to spend. This is a very harmful vice, which can result in not spending on their obligations. So this person, he's stingy. He's not reasonable. He's not saving it for something good. He's not doing something right that's approved by the religion. He's not doing something which the intellect affirms, but rather he is doing something which is vice ridden. He is a person, or she is a person, who doesn't want to spend. So, and this doesn't mean to go to israfi, wastefulness and extravagance and all those things, but a person who is stingy with their money. So this is a very harmful vice, which can result in not spending on one's obligations, like khums, like zakat, nafaka, the maintenance for the children. So these kinds of things are very harmful. This vice is very harmful and can result in some very detrimental things. So how does one come to know that they are a stingy person? How is one diagnosed? How can we diagnose somebody as being of a person who has the vice of stinginess? The first thing that we can do is, most people may be denying that they are stingy. So they may be denying that they are stingy. They even may be in some kind of self-denial that they are stingy. Hence, a stingy person, they may make excuses for not spending and not giving sadaqah. So they may make excuses for not spending and not giving sadaqah. So here, look at yourself, or look at the case of the person who you're examining to diagnose if they have the malady of stinginess. Are they just making excuses not to spend? Okay, you have khums still. Why are you not spending on the khums? Well, it makes some kind of excuse. You have nafaka. Why are you not spending on the nafaka? You could afford it. Why you're not giving the rights? Well, they already, they don't, they make some kind of excuse, some kind of justification. So look at yourself. Is it just an excuse, or is this the right thing? So is it just an excuse that you're giving, and you're in some kind of self-denial and just making up some kind of excuses not to spend? And this may be evidence, maybe indication that you have the malady of stinginess. The second thing is, a stingy person views his or her charity as achievements. So when they donate something, they view their donations as something great, something big. They give some money to a charitable organization. They did a big achievement. So they view these things as something great, while a generous person, a person who is generous, they may not view it like that at all. They may not look at it like it's something great. It's something, it's actually something that is small compared to what is actually needed in the world, what is actually being done. Even if it's a lot of money, it's not a big achievement. I just gives them some kind of charity, and you feel like, maybe you could give more, or you don't feel like this is a big achievement that you've given some kind of charity donations. So a stingy person, this is the second way that you may diagnose somebody as being stingy, is that a stingy person may view his or her charity donations as achievements which are great, while a generous person may not view it like that at all. They may not view it like that. The third indication, possible indication that a person is stingy, is one may find it difficult or hard to pay their religious dues. When it is time to pay khums or zakat, one may find it difficult to pay their khums or zakat, as example. So here what one has to do is they have to take the medicine of forcing themselves. So here one has to force themselves to give it. And they may be attracted, they may be attached to the wealth. They may be attached to wealth as well. So this takes some effort to separate that attachment. They really don't need this extra, say, $100 for zakat, or $100 for khums, and they may feel attached to that money though. So they have to force themselves to pay their religious dues to solve this problem and combat this illness. So if one finds it difficult or hard to pay religious dues, of course, when they're able to, then this may be a sign that a person is stingy, that a person has the vice of stinginess. The fourth is when someone is asked for help, they get bothered. So when someone requests the help, a stingy person may get annoyed, bothered. So here, this is a sign that a person is stingy. So these are 4 indicators of the vice of stinginess. Now, what are the causes of stinginess? What is the root causes of being a stingy person or having the vice of stinginess? The first is hubbat dunya, love of the world, and hirs, greed. So love of the world, love of dunya, and greed that one cannot get rid of. A consequence of this could be stinginess. Think about it. Your love of the world, you're attached. That money is more important to you than Allah's commands of paying your religious dues or doing good with it. Greed, you're greedy, you want more, you're never content with anything. So how are you going to be content with less? So these 2 vices can affect and be a cause for another vice, the vice of stinginess. So that is the first cause. Maybe a person has love of this world or greed as a vice, which is having a domino effect on another vice, causing another vice. The second cause is fear of poverty. Fear of poverty. Now, of course, here a person needs to be religiously and intellectually, right? They have to take care of their responsibilities. But there's a point where it's not rational, it's not religiously good, it's not morally good to have this fear anymore. And even throughout the rest, one should have complete reliance on Allah the Exalted, because Allah the Exalted is the giver of rizq. But then you got some rizq from Allah, and you take care of your dues. You put intellectual thought to it to make sure you covered your ground. Now, if you have some kind of fears more than that, You fear poverty more than that. So now you won't pay you won't pay your religious dues, or now you're stingy. So here, if your fear of poverty, so a person here, they may think that if they give, they are insecure. So if they give and spend it in a good way, then they are not as secure. So they are insecure. So their security is gone because they had this fear. This this is a problem, because what the person needs here is to have more reliance on Allah. They need to have more tawakkul on Allah. They have to have reliance on Allah in the first place, during the risk, with the risk, and after the risk. You need to have tawakkul of Allah throughout the whole thing. So you have to have reliance on Allah the Exalted. Yes, we must not be safi. You know, from the fiqh classes, safi, this one who is foolish in his spending, but also not be stingy, and also not be greedy, and also not be in love of the world. So you tie your camel and then you rely. I say you rely while tying the camel, and then you rely more. And even rely within the tying of the camel. So you need tawakkul throughout the whole thing. You need reliance on Allah throughout the whole thing. So these are two causes for stinginess: love of the world and greed, and fear of poverty. So how do you treat this malady? How is this sickness, this illness treated? First, since one of the causes for stinginess is love of the dunya, one of the causes for stinginess is love of the world. To treat the malady of stinginess, one should treat their love of the world, such as learning to be content with what they have, and looking at the dark and negative side of dunya love. Look at the ill consequences. Where has dunya love gotten all those who loved it before? All those before you throughout history, the lovers of dunya, where has it gotten them? Those who have built up large palaces, collect gold and diamonds, where has it gotten them? People dig up their treasures in the ground, maybe next to some decayed bones, or none at all. So look at the dark and negative sides of dunya love. All the ill consequences that are gotten to be able to get what you want out of greed and dunya love. All the people who get hurt in the way. People, the right of Allah and the rights of people that are disregarded, the injustice that happens. So look at the negative side of dunya love. Also, dunya is temporal. The temporality of dunya. Consider the dunya and its temporality. This world is a vanishing and fading place. You're not here forever. You're only passing through like a traveler. So to treat your dunya love, learn to be content with what you have. Look at the dark and negative sides of dunya love. Look and consider and ponder on the temporality of the dunya, so that one may be pushed away from it, pushed away from the attachment to it, so that one may be reminded that dunya is not worth it. Dunya is not worth all the efforts and the struggles. It's not worth the selling of your hereafter. It's not worth losing your hereafter. If you're doing good with dunya to obey Allah, that's good. But if dunya is ruling you and you are now the servant of dunya because you've submitted to it and you're attached to it, it's not worth it. It's not worth your struggle, your efforts. For what? Dunya is going to leave you at your death. You're not taking dunya with you in the grave. Your family's not coming with you in the grave. Your wealth's not coming with you in the grave. What's coming with you is you and what you've done, your account. So it's not worth the hereafter to sell the hereafter for dunya. Hence, one may use all the same treatments related to greed, to hirs, and related to dunya love to treat stinginess. You could use the same type of treatments. The second treatment for stinginess is the stingy person is disliked. Understand and know this, that the person who is stingy, this person is disliked and hated. People dislike and they hate this person sometimes. So remember the harms and the negative effects of being stingy and the positive effects and good benefits of being generous. People like the generous person. If somebody came and gave you gifts and gave you this and gave you that, you'd like that. Who doesn't like to get some generosity to them? So people with common sense, they like generosity given to them. So understand the negative effects of being stingy and the positive and good effects of being generous. The second or the third way to treat stinginess is understand and know that giving reasonably will not make you poor. Giving reasonably will not make you poor. We find in the Holy Quran, in Surah 2, Ayat 268, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ash-shaytanu ya'idukumu al-faqra wa ya'murukum bi-fahsha'i wa Allahu ya'idukum makfiratan minhu wa fadlan wa Allahu wasi'un alim. Shaitan threatens you with poverty and enjoins you with fasha'i. Fasha. They translated this as niggardly, but I suggest you look up into the Arabic for fasha. Fasha, I think, is more than that. So Wallahu ya'idukum makfiratan minhu. And Allah promises you forgiveness from Himself. Wa fadlan, and abundance. Again, here you can see there's just a transinterpretation of the ayat. The Arabic is much better. And it continues. Wa Allahu wasi'un alim. And Allah is, they translated as ample giving and knowing. So Allah is the vastly giving. And Allah is the one who gives vastly. And Allah is the all-knowing. Then we have وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. And they who, when they spend, are neither extravagant, so yusrifu, this is israf, nor parsimonious, and between these, the just mean. So, transinterpretation of it. Surah 25, ayat 67. And this next one, it says, I'll read the English transinterpretation. And those who made their abode in the city and in the faith before them loved those who had fled to them, and do not find in their hearts a need of what they are given, and prefer before themselves, though poverty may afflict them. And whoever is preserved from niggardliness, these it is that are the successful ones. So I think this is a different word than was in the other ayat. So this is Surah 56, ayat number 9. The fourth treatment for stinginess is repetition. So keep giving, force yourself to keep giving until the vice of stinginess is uprooted and replaced. If you had a tree, keep hitting and digging until you uproot that tree and put the new one in and plant it. One may here teach their nafs to give. You teach yourself to give. Then you teach your nafs to give for the sake of Allah the Exalted. If you were to imagine this on a scale, this vice on a scale, the golden mean would be generosity. So that golden mean would be generosity. It's negligence is stinginess. And its extreme is israf, extravagant spending, extravagance, israf. And there's more that I think could be said about israf. But just so you know, these are two vices, israf and stinginess. You want the golden mean to be generous. So stinginess and israf. Israf, the extreme is israf. This is a vice. These are vices. As example, these vices would produce giving too much while denying your family, as example. So it's extreme as israf. This is a vice. Israf is a vice. As an example of israf is in extravagant spendings, it would produce giving too much while denying your family, as example, their nafaka or what they need, while you're giving too much. That's an example of israf. So bukhul is defined as stinginess where one should be generous. So when we talk about this stinginess, this is a stinginess where one should be generous. The opposite of it is the vice to be lavish, where one should be frugal. The golden mean is generosity. So there's areas where you should be frugal and not lavish. And there's areas where you should be generous and not stingy. So here, bukhul is defined as stinginess where one should be generous. The opposite of it is the vice of lavishness where one should be frugal. And the golden mean is generosity. Bukhul is caused by the love of this world. That's one of the causes we mentioned. And generosity is a consequence of zuhud. To cure oneself from this malady, it is necessary to pay close attention to the verses and the narrations in which this vice is condemned, and to ponder upon the harmful consequences of this vice. So you look at the noble ayats of the Quran, or the reliable, trustworthy. So you look at reliable hadith about these things, and see what they mention about condemning this vice, and ponder upon the harmful consequences of this vice. And if that is not working, that is not sufficient to help in remove to support removing this vice, then one must force themselves to be generous, even if such generosity is even artificial at the first start. It may be artificial at the first, so you teach yourself first to give, and then you teach yourself to give for the sake of Allah. So it may be artificial at first, and this must continue until it becomes a malaka, a fixed Rabbil Alameen.